we opened Sight in 2,100 theaters, Memorial Day weekend.
There was an uprising in my hometown.
And interestingly, it was the first film in history to have a higher box office on the Monday of Memorial Day weekend than Saturday and Sunday.
Here we go.
I can see you.
In the last couple of decades, the windows have opened up, and now blind, there's no reason. People that are blind can just, there's a path to sight again.
That's
and
beautiful.
It's such a big part of life that it's fun. So anyway, I enjoyed the movie. I enjoyed that aspect of just letting people know that, these people that deal with these issues, and we've dealt with the same issues actually in the Calcutta orphanages and things like that.
Yeah.
The exact same things.
Yeah.
Where people have been burned and they need a cornea transplant, or they have cataracts, and it's the
Wait, you mean burned like they did on purpose?
Yeah. Oh, that's a real thing.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's a real thing, and we'll go in and they'll have. We're not rolling here, but
We are.
we are. We'll go in. We'll go in.
I can insert this
See
in
how?
there.
See how? We'll go in and volunteer and just say we'll go into the orphanages and say, hey, let's look at all your kids. A lot of these kids are blind. We can fix this. The technology's there nowadays.
Oh my God.
And actually, it's sad because the people that run those institutions a lot of times are like, no, because they need them. Because
No, are you
they
serious?
need them to be blind. They need them to, I'm
Really?
not sure if they're
So
self-imposed.
have you gone head to head with some of those people?
Well, our doctors overseas,
and what do they do? They have to fight them on
well,
it?
if they don't want us to come back, they can't. They have that child, but these kids with deformities and with disabilities are kind of their lifeline to funding and.
Hey you guys, I'm here with two incredibly talented, gifted, and world-changing individuals. We have Doug Jackson right here, who's the, what would you say?
CEO.
CEO of Charity Vision, which is about giving people their sight. And what's wild about this is we also have Neil Harmon, who has just, with Angel Studios, just put out a movie called Sight that has something to do with exactly what you're doing, giving people sight. And the movie is about, what's his name again?
It's the story of Ming Wang, who fled communist China and against all odds got into medical school and became a world-renowned eye surgeon and invented a new procedure that has helped restore the sight of millions of people.
And it's Angel Studios that picked this idea, turned it into a movie, and it was released a couple of weeks ago.
Memorial Day weekend.
Memorial Day weekend. So amazing that you're putting that out, so inspiring. And according to the movie, Dr. Wang, he says the movie is right on accurate, 100% accurate.
It's pretty close. It's pretty close to, based on a true story, can have lots of variance in what that means.
Well, he seemed to approve of it. Like, hey,
yeah,
this really happened.
He shared with me a couple of things that were a little bit different, but
all
in all, it's
all.
pretty accurate.
And what's wild about this is I was talking to Doug, and we're like, hey, Angel Studios came out with this movie called Sight, and Doug's like, this is what we do at Charity Vision. We go out and we give people sight. We do a surgery, and you weren't sure exactly what surgery Wang was going to be doing.
Not until I saw the movie. But
until you saw the movie.
But it's in that same realm of this area of medicine has just advanced dramatically in the last few decades, and so it's kind of nice to see a movie that lets everybody know that eyesight can be restored and people's lives can be restored. It's a dark place, literally, to when you can't see anymore, and there's a lot of reasons why that happens. But medicine has come a long way, and we can pretty much cure most every one of them. So it's in our charity we'll see 1.5 million people every year. That's just a drop in the bucket.
1.5 million people a
We'll
year.
see 1.5 million every year, and we have wonderful, and like Dr. Wang, our doctors all over the world, we use local doctors in their own countries.
You train them, or what do you do?
Most of them are trained pretty well.
they-
We
they-
might sharpen up a couple little skills, but they're, like Dr. Wang, they are passionate, because when you see one person take those bandages off and their lives just come back into focus and life restored, it's emotional, and it drives you to just never want to stop. And this story is a beautiful story about his journey and how he used his ability to help people and give people their sight back to help him also kind of overcome some of the demons he had in his life from a pretty rough childhood.
Oh yeah, that's.
So
pretty,
it's a great
going
movie,
with
but
all
I
that.
love the fact that it highlights that we should be focusing on eyes. No pun intended.
Wow.
Pun intended. We should be focusing on eyes. 'Cause this is one area we can really put some resources behind. Actually, the WHO says there's no other area that gives you the bigger bang for your buck than restoring sight. Because it
I
only
bet.
costs literally a few dollars, and you give people their sight back.
Are you
Really?
kidding me?
Our average surgery cost us $25.
$25.
$25 gives them their sight back. So it wasn't that way when the technology first came out 20 years ago, but it's gotten better and better and better and more efficient. And I mean, there's no reason we should be allowing that.
fast food these days.
I
for
know.
You
less
can't
than
get a meal
$25.
That's why I tell people that want to help. I want to help out and do something good in the world, but I'm not rich. And I'll say, you don't have to be rich for eyesight. $25. We can take someone that hasn't seen their child, for 20 years, or their spouse, or haven't been able to work or go to school, and in about 5 minutes, give them their sight back.
So when I go out to take my wife for dinner, I'm going, hey, someone could have their eyesight.
Yeah, it's
There's how to guilt trip anybody when
I was
they're
saying,
eating out.
it's a horrible thing because now I can't spend more than $25 on anything.
And now I can't ask people to go buy tickets to sight because they should be
They could be giving sight
2 tickets and they could be giving sight.
forever, changing your life forever. I know it's a hard thing to have to deal with.
Now we are saddled with the weight of knowing
Oh my
every time
gosh,
we
the
spend
weight of that- That's right.
$25.
Oh no, so how could be seeing who they're married to or who their
Yeah.
kid is?
It's a miracle.
Beautiful.
It's a miracle. It's a
It
miracle.
is. So we opened Sight in 2,100 theaters Memorial Day weekend. And interestingly, it was the first film in history to have a higher box office on the Monday of Memorial Day weekend than Saturday and Sunday. And that was fun.
Why do you think that would be?
We think that it was because we've heard lots of first generation immigrants, Asian Americans, who say that this is the first film that's ever come out of Hollywood that speaks to them. Now they don't know
really?
that we're not necessarily part of Hollywood, but they are like, this is the first film in theaters that it doesn't stereotype us. It speaks our
Really?
story. It speaks to our heart, and
The first one that they've ever seen.
yes, and then on top of that, we had learned previously that the Latin market in the U.S., which about 30% of our box office sales for previous movies have been the Latino market.
Oh,
They don't buy tickets in advance. Like, they don't want to pay the online fees. They just show up and they pay cash. And we had a hypothesis that maybe with the Asian American market it would be similar, because the Asian Americans are very frugal. They're actually the most, like, as a group, they're the most wealthy section of America, and they're just more frugal with and careful with their resources. So we thought maybe these guys will just show up opening weekend, and that's what we think happened. So we
wow.
got all the pre-sales from the Angel Guild members and people who are fans of Angel, and then this bigger group of Asian Americans showed up and grew the film, and which is why the
Wow.
second weekend we got 2,118 screens. We actually went up a little bit, which is very, very unusual. And then by the third weekend it had cooled off, and we're at 634 screens, but it's still available. You can still go see it. It's rated 70% by the critics, and 98, or it's hovering between 98 and 99% by audiences. So audiences love this film. It's a wonderful
Wow.
experience. Yeah.
what's the backline on that on the movie? How'd that come about? Whose brainchild was that one?
David Fisher.
David Fisher.
So David Fisher met Ming Wang in Nashville,
Really?
and just had dinner with him and learned about his story. And he said, "I think this could be a film."
Just like that. How long ago was that?
That was probably 8 years ago.
8 years ago. So this has been 8 years in the making.
Yeah.
And David Fisher, who's David Fisher?
David Fisher is, he lives in Minnesota. He's the producer of Sight.
And has he been working with you guys for years?
No, actually. Well, for just a little over a year. So they came to us back, I think it was February of last year, and they wanted, or maybe it was even the year before, that they came and they brought Sight to the Guild, to the Angel Guild. So the way Angel Studios works is we don't take anything to theaters unless the people decide we should greenlight it.
Right.
And so there's about 325,000 Angel Guild members now, and
it's growing constantly, right?
Yeah.
By committee. It's done by, that's a huge committee.
Yeah, so we take
herding cats.
We take a sample. We take a sample
okay.
from that group, and we show the film to the sample, and then they score it. And with Sight, it didn't score high enough to go to theaters, and we told David this didn't score high enough, and then we met at a conference, and he said, "I'm willing to make the adjustments that the audience is suggesting. I still want to release this with Angel." And so they went back and they did a whole new version of the film.
Wow.
That was more focused. I think it was 18 minutes shorter and had better music, better timing, and came back and submitted to the Guild again with a new sample of people, and it scored 11 points higher, which was high enough to go to theaters. And so we decided to partner together to release this film in theaters.
I love the scene, and it probably was in the first one as well, but the scene where she takes her bandages off and she looks in the mirror and says, I'm so beautiful. I love that.
Wow.
She hasn't seen it ever, but this idea, we take it for granted, seeing people.
I know.
We see people all over the world that have never seen their kids, never seen their grandkids. I mean, a mom that's never seen her kids, to take the bandages off and she sees her kids for the first time. That's why I think.
So you're there when a lot of this happens.
Yeah, I think Dr. Wang, I'm sure,
response.
it's so emotional and so rewarding. It's like, how do you not do this? Because so much of our life depends on our sight.
Wow.
And to see them take those bandages off. I was telling Gaynor, we've had it a couple times where the husband and wife both can't see. They both have.
Really?
Oh, and so
they haven't seen each other for years, sometimes decades. And then we'll do them at the same time and have them sitting next to each other and take the bandages off and they can see each other. Oh, and it's so moving. It's so exciting because they just, break down and cry, or they start laughing. Usually they start just to laugh because they've seen it, because they know what each other looks like. But one guy was funny because he goes, "Oh my gosh, put my bandages back on." He was funny because he hadn't seen her and he had just remembered her in her younger years,
Oh my gosh, that is hilarious.
But no, it's touching, and there's no reason people should be blind anymore. The technology is there.
Wow. That's
and
so
Dr.
well
Wang's an
said.
example of they're always pushing the envelope, what they can do more. Your eyes are way more resilient than you think. When you watch those surgeries, they can cut them and do a lot of things. Oh yeah, they're way more resilient. There's a lot of nerves there, so it hurts,
It hurts,
but they can take a beating and keep on ticking.
I had no idea.
And so you can cut the corneas out, replace it with a different cornea. We go in and take out the lenses, put new lenses in. And, for the 100 million people that are blind with just cataracts, there's no reason. It's a few minute operation, costs a few dollars. So
that's so amazing. Well, did you ever think you would end up like this when the Harmon brothers started out and you guys started doing, cleaning up films?
I grew up farming in Idaho. This is the last thing that I ever expected to do with my life.
The last thing. So you figured you were going to be a farmer?
No, I didn't. I actually didn't think I was going to be when I was a kid, I tried to start a dairy farm.
How old were you when you started this whole project with
VidAngel and stuff?
Yeah.
VidAngel, I think I wrote the first code for VidAngel in 2012.
So you were writing code?
Yeah, and I was just making it for our kids. My oldest was 9, and I wanted to share with him Cinderella Man, without having him use the language of the coach with his little sisters. So I wrote this program that would mute the bad words, and then it cut out one of the more gory hits, and so that the family, we could all watch it together. And
wow, that's some doing to be able to do that. But I mean, so you had to test it on a few movies to see if it worked. This new software you designed.
Yeah, it was just tinkering. It was just for fun.
Wow.
And it was like a year later that that we were thinking about a new business, and did some research and found out about half of American parents wanted something like what I wanted. So
Did you say half of American parents?
yeah.
They were upset with the language and the bad stuff that's in movies. Half. Oh,
That was
wow.
back in 2012.
2013 is when we did that
It's gotten a lot
research.
worse.
How many parents are now?
I have no idea. But eventually we just, and the reason we started the company is we said, hey, if we build a technology that allows families who have a moral compass to say, hey, I want to keep a certain value level in my home.
Wow.
If we gather those people together, eventually we'll be able to create and distribute stories better than Hollywood for that group. That was the original vision.
Wow.
And so it was VidAngel, and then it eventually became Angel Studios, and now here we are releasing stories that amplify light all over the globe.
There are a lot of inspirational,
Incredible
stories.
Stories that need to be told and need to be out there. So you're basically finding out that there's a, should I say, sleeping giant of people who are looking for good content?
I would say it has been, that the industry has been astounded by what has happened with Angel Studios, and I think that's more reflective of the market we're serving than it is of us necessarily. We just happen to be there to solve the problems.
Are they trying to do better movies now in Hollywood because of what you guys are doing?
So Netflix is working on a series about David. It's a Bible series. Amazon is as well. Lionsgate just launched a faith division. There's just been all kinds of investment and activity in this space right now.
So you're basically changing the world.
Well, we are.
We are. Well,
Yeah, I mean, it's like...
you're getting people on board like this team.
Yeah.
And changing it. That's so wild. Wow. So what keeps you guys from moving down to L.A.?
We actually have people in LA.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah.
You guys are all up here in Utah. And
The headquarters is here in Utah.
Here in Utah.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild. Do people have a problem with the, people identify Utah with, Latter-day Saints, Mormons. Do people, when they start to find out, do they have a problem with that, with these movies being produced by?
Angel Studios gives the filmmakers creative freedom. So
you're not producing it, but
we're not
making it.
we're not
you're
telling
making it
them
happen.
we're not telling them how to do stuff. We give them a good feedback loop where they can show what they're working on to the Angel Guild, and then they can get feedback and they can improve it.
So would you say that the Angel Guild is mostly Christian?
Yeah, today.
Okay.
But with every release, it becomes more diverse of a
More
group.
diverse.
I think the need is there, the market is there. Someone has to lead out to give everybody else the confidence to follow. Okay. And that's the one nice thing I think that Angel Studios does, is that other people can get on board and say, okay, I can have my standards, and it'll be accepted, and I won't be ostracized for it. And that's the beauty of, I think, what you're doing. Like you said, Netflix is following suit, and other people are following suit because they say, hey, there's a market there, and we can actually have standards and still be successful and still.
Yeah, and it's been interesting to see how we had a very famous filmmaker, and I can't share who it is for confidentiality reasons, but very famous filmmaker who came to us, showed us a film, and then the producer afterwards was asking how the Angel Guild would respond to this, and we said,
Oh no!
We could put it through the guild, but we think that this one would be tough. And he said, "Well, don't you have this VidAngel thing that can just get rid of all this stuff?"
Edit it.
And we're like, whoa, Twilight Zone! Like we're coming full circle where the filmmakers are asking us to use VidAngel. But that was funny. But the point that I was going to make is. like for instance, with Dry Bar comedy, which is comedy that's funny for everyone. It's supposed to be family safe, brand safe. And there was a number of comedians who've come and performed at Dry Bar, and their careers have blown up. And then they'll go on the road and they'll do their normal set, and people will show up who are Dry Bar fans at their set and then say afterwards, "I'm so disappointed in you. I did not know."
Because they were doing their language and stuff.
Yeah, and they've changed their entire careers because of the success they've had with Dry Bar.
There's a bigger audience with cleaner material.
Yes, and there are other people who are bringing their films and they're saying, "Hey, if I get rid of all the F words, maybe this will go through the guild." Or there are people who are producing new stuff, and it really comes down to that people who are artists, they just want to work with people who are creating great art. They don't like all that stuff. They don't care about that stuff. They just, if that stuff's necessary for them to produce great art, then they'll do it. But if it's not, and they have a path with Angel to do really great art, but not have all that stuff in it, they're totally fine with that. That's a challenge for them. They look at the market, and it's been really refreshing to see people who normally would do dirty, normally would do that kind of, just eat on a dime. They're like, "You're going to give me creative freedom? And all I have to do is just get feedback from the guild? I'm in." Because all the studios tell me what I have to put in my movie or tell me what I have to do.
They're telling them they have to put in this bad stuff, this swear words and stuff. They're telling them they have to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's well known. You can see articles. There was a producer inside of Game of Thrones who was their job. The intimacy producer would be like, "I need full frontal nudity in this."
Really?
Yeah, it's on. You can go look at it online.
Oh my gosh. So they're saying,
I represent the perverts of the audience, is what this producer said.
So he makes sure that keep him happy.
So wait a second. So they're saying they're going to get more viewership from that, but they're not going to get more viewership than that when they put in stuff that's not.
They're going to cut off parts of the market.
Yeah.
And
so what is their big motivation behind putting all this bad stuff in movies?
There could be a more sinister interpretation, and then there's another interpretation, which is just that Hollywood is a bubble, and the people have lived there for a long time, and they live a certain lifestyle, and they like to create things that speak to them, and that bubble doesn't actually reflect the rest of the world.
Wow.
And so some of this stuff is entering the storytelling just because of that. I think that's what I tend to think that's happening. There are other, there are interest groups. I know that there are, the military will spend a lot of money to insert pro-military type, military type stuff into the stories, and they'll provide lots of funding. I know that.
Do you get that kind of offer with your movies?
So we partner with every filmmaker and with the producers.
And you let them do it.
And they choose how they do it,
And they can take whoever wants to put in something in the movie, and but you limit it. Who does the quality control to make sure they don't put the bad stuff in there?
Well, it's the guild. The guild watches it first, and they decide whether or not it meets the standard.
They watch it first. So in other words, but they watch the idea of the movie, but then when the movie is produced, let's say that
even when it's fully produced, the guild has to watch it and pass it before we go to theaters.
So let's just say that a movie gets produced and everything, all the money goes out there, and the guild doesn't pass it. What do you do then?
Then we would just release that movie for somebody else to distribute it.
Okay.
We wouldn't distribute it.
You wouldn't put your name on it.
They're distributing.
Okay. Sound of Freedom came out last year.
Yes.
And that was a box office winner in the top 10, right?
Yes.
And that was on the 4th of July.
Yes.
And
on July 4th this year, we're releasing Sound of Hope.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to ask, is what are you releasing this year on July 4th for everyone to watch for is what again?
Sound of Hope. It's the story of Possum Trot, Texas. There's 22 families, 22 black families in Possum Trot.
They adopted.
Who adopted 77 children and changed the entire face of the foster care system. And the reason this is so significant is because 90% of the trafficked children in the United States went through the Child Protective Services Division and foster care system. And so you solve the foster care problem and you solve the trafficking problem.
So you're saying that part of the big part of the trafficking problem is the foster care system.
Yeah.
So you're kind of
there's
attacking-
400,000 churches in the United States,
400,000.
and there's 400,000 children in the foster care system. I mean, all it would take is for each church to
Adopt.
take in a child, and it would change the face of our country forever.
So
And
is this,
Sound of Hope tells
and
that
it
story.
tells that story. See what these movies are doing? That is changing the world. You know, the reason, coming out west, the reason Brigham Young built a theater, he wanted to build a theater in Salt Lake City, is he says you can show so many different ideas and whatever, put the over points by acting. And so here you are, you're doing Brigham Young's dream. And you're influencing people on what's going on and helping them to understand it, where it will like stay with them.
Well, it's called Angel for a reason. It's because it's a movement. It's
a movement.
all the people who are supporting these films.
Oh, really?
Angel stands for Angel Investor, and
Angel Investor.
The reason that we exist is because, there are thousands of people who invested to launch Sound of Freedom. Same thing. There are people launching Sight and people. So
Wow.
anyone can join the
They're
Angel
a
Guild
team.
and they can be part of the movement. But it's
So how do they join the Angel Guild? Why don't you look at the camera and just say
I don't know where the camera is, but
Oh,
it's
yeah, right
angel.com/guild.
there.
angel.com/guild, and they can join the guild,
Join the
and learn
movement.
about it, and join the movement, and have a voice with movies.
Yes, you'll be able to vote on what comes next to Angel. You'll get complimentary tickets to any Angel release. You get early access to all of our shows, discounts, and exclusive content for Guild members. And
That's
talk
amazing.
with each other about the films that are
Okay,
coming.
it wasn't too long ago when you had 50,000. I thought that was a lot of people. Wasn't that like last year you had 50,000?
Last year, in May of last year, we had less than 100,000.
And what do you have currently?
This morning when I looked, it was at 323,500 or something like that.
So you're going to have tons more next week.
I hope so.
You're growing up like.
Yeah, we hope so.
Well, I love this movie. This is so great, and I am so fortunate to know both these guys. They live, kind of close to me. But go check out the movie, and then go check out also Charity Vision, and help someone get their eyesight, which is incredible. What you're doing. So go ahead and do that. And I wanted to say one last thing. I just want to bring up the fact that Angel Studios is what brought about The Chosen, right?
Yes.
And so you guys made that funding possible, and that's a huge success. Isn't that? Could I dare say that that's probably the most successful shows about Jesus ever made? Series or a movie?
Certainly series.
Certainly series.
Yeah, Passion of the Christ.
Passion of the Christ
pretty
was still
successful.
Okay,
Yeah.
that was pretty successful.
I'm
But
not, I
you
think
guys
in
are,
terms of like overall viewership, I don't know that The Chosen's passed the Passion yet, but The Chosen's at well over 100 million viewers now.
wow, that's
Yeah.
insane.
Yep.
So Jonathan Romy, did you know he was right here with a drum set practicing last year?
Yeah, Jonathan's great.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. It's pretty wild to have him. I was like, I didn't know he played drums.
I didn't either.
And he was getting ready to go overseas to do this big stadium and play drums with this big famous Christian band.
Oh, good
I
for him.
thought it was pretty well. So he was like dedicated, practicing. I was like, you're a pretty good drummer.
He didn't tell that. My daughter Lily plays the drums, but
Oh, yeah.
he didn't
Really?
tell us that.
Well, tell him I told you.
All right.
Okay, well, thank you guys for taking your time to be on this interview, and thank you guys for
Pleasure.
watching.
Thanks.
Okay, we'll see you.
I never know if you're supposed to look at a camera or not.
I
People always say.
I didn't tell you.
They always say when you do it. Yeah, when I've done some new, don't look at the camera.
Oh,
But they're like, well, they're looking at the camera.